The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
And it's episode number 16. It is, as of this recording, 67 days until the man burns. And I am not even ready for Contact. Contact is another Mexico event we're going to. Not so big like Electric Poncho. I know I swore on the air that I would never mention Electric Poncho or SD Board Cap again, but it looks like I just broke both of those rules in the past 30 seconds. Contact is a smaller event. It's thrown by Native Alien and I guess like a lot of female DJs, and it's kind of a smaller thing. It's 4th of July weekend that's coming up, so I'm hitting that. That's I think we've announced that a couple of times on the announcements on the podcast. But anyway, I'm not at all fucking ready for the burn, and it is the man burns in 67 days. So I really need new boots. I need to figure out my fucking shade structure. Ugh. Hate that damn thing. I hate dealing with it. I hate lugging it around. I hate how much space it takes. Man, I don't know. It's a shame about 10 Walls. I don't know if you're a deep house techno fans. Probably heard that he went off on this like weird homophobic rant like 2 weeks before gay marriage becomes legal in the United States. You know, he's not American, but yeah, it's kind of a shame. I was a big fan of Walking with Elephants. That song was being played by a DJ very close to our art car last year as the man burned. So that song has like a really special place in my heart. And it kind of sucks that I kind of feel like I have to, I don't know, I feel like I have to just cut him off completely out of my life. 10 Walls, for going off on your homophobic rant. That's not cool. I don't know. Do we punish every artist because they were douchebags at some point? I imagine there are really huge, important pieces of art to this day that we continue to enjoy from the past centuries that were created by artists who may have been ranging from kind of not the best people on the planet to absolute complete pieces of shit. You know, I don't know. I feel like I could continue to listen to that song since it's already on my Spotify. Like, I'm not going to continue giving him money. I think he makes like a quarter of a penny each time the song is played. Who knows? Whatever. I really like that song though. But this year on the playa at Burning Man, when we go home, the entire Burner Podcast team is going to be there. Everyone, I mean, well, the four honchos are going to be there. I will be there. Of course, producer Meg is going to be on the playa. Our music editor, Navjeet, he's going to be there. We're going to be camping together. I'm so looking forward to this. It's going to be amazing. And of course, you know, might as well make the official announcement. Our new online editor, Tanasi is going to be there with us as well. Our little burner Ninja Turtle team. Tanasi has taken over where our adorable Alpi left off in order to pursue higher education. And Tanasi, if you'll remember, if you're an avid listener of the show, he was our guest on episode number... I think it was episode number 3. I'm honestly not sure. You could probably go look that up. Go look at previous episodes of Burner Podcast over at burnerpodcast.com. And we do an interview with Tanasi, and he was important and amazing enough to be a subject of an interview. And so when this, I ran into him at one of our weekly meetups here in San Diego, and I thought about it, and I thought, hey, Tanasi would be perfect. He's a community organizer. He's a great writer. He's passionate. He's amazing. And I messaged him, and he said he would love to. So I'm really psyched about that. And Navjeet, our music editor, is doing a ton of work helping us out, setting up servers and all kinds of other tech geek stuff. And it's depressing to hear that Nav over dinner said that he fears that he's not doing enough. Nav, you're doing plenty. We love you, and you are extremely important to us. You are doing a lot. Now I'm just putting it out there to the universe. The Burner Podcast team is looking for a social media editor, and that basically means I want somebody to tweet. tweet all day. That's all I want. I want you to just be on Twitter, engaging people, knowing what's going on in the community, being our ear to the streets. That's all I want. But the team continues to grow. We have other people here and there that help out with things, and we have our 4 guys, our staff of 4 that are officially on the page. But then there's other people within our vicinity that are helping us keep this amazing thing going and helping it grow and expand. And it's really, really pretty fucking amazing that by the 16th episode, we have this much happening already. But today's guest, today's interview is with Major Tom Varden. Varden. Man, I really do need to look up how to pronounce these last names. I'm the one with the weird name, and I'm the one that has a hard time saying all these like very normal names. But Major Tom, you'll probably know Major Tom as one of the driving forces, the instrumental, the engine behind Black Rock Observatory, the much talked about observatory on the playa, which was, I went around to a lot of different places. It was one of those things that you might just be hanging out at a bar randomly and somebody would just say like, hey, did you know that there's like an observatory here? Yeah. It caught a lot of attention. It was really a magical idea, and it was such a perfect place for it because, you can already see the cosmos from that particular location on the Earth's surface, but now to have a little bit of guidance there and have some have a telescope. I mean, it's pretty awesome stuff, and it was something that really got a lot of attention on the playa. We basically get into the background story about how Black Rock Observatory came together, what all went into it. Recorded this interview at Tom's home, which is on the edge of the Mojave, all the way at the northern end of LA County, on another sort of playa, if you will. Stay tuned through the story for the Carl Sagan connection. That was fun. And God, Tom is just absolutely one of the nicest people. I mean, we connected with him because he did bring some of what he had out there. He brought it out to Utopia, the San Diego Regional Burn, and I mean, everybody just instantly fell in love with Tom. He's just such a sweet individual. And that thing that happens a lot on the playa where there's that like connection between 2 or 3 things, and there's this kind of like magical way where it's kind of a small world, but it's not, because there's 65,000 fucking people out there. And one of those other connections was that there was a connection with Greg Fleischman, who you'll hear the story once it gets in there. He's an amazing artist and an architect, and has in mine and my friend Helen's opinion, arguably the most elegant camp that we saw out there at Burning Man. So we're just gonna go ahead and get into this interview with Major Tom. And producer Meg told me to look up this thing that Tom posted about SpaceX, because I guess like that's like a big passion of Tom's, and Tom's got a lot of cool shit going on right now. I mean, like, he actually is working in this field at this point. At the time of this interview, he wasn't, but now he is actually working at, I believe, the LA Observatory. I could be getting this wrong, and my internet connection is down, so I can't confirm it. But look up the Black Rock Observatory blog. That's over at blackrockobservatory.org. I believe the address is. No, I'm sorry. It's blackrockobservatory.com. Go to blackrockobservatory.com, and all that information is going to be on there. But you know what? We've blabbed enough. Let's get into this interview with Tom. Producer Meg, I'm sorry, I don't know what that SpaceX connection is. I do know SpaceX is Elon Musk's thing. It's the privatization of space travel, and that's pretty fucking cool. Elon Musk, of course, big major burner, future guest of this show. There's no doubt in my mind, but sorry, Meg, I tried. I don't get the connection. But we're just going to get into this interview with Major Tom. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Major Tom likes Grand Theft Auto. I think he was playing that when I arrived at his home. I'm pretty sure that was the game, or Halo or something. I don't know. He plays video games. Anyway, I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was the
to Utopia?
Yeah.
You're saying that the
Well, it's such a. I mean,
Equinox just passed right now. Recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just went to Equinox last weekend. So, now it's new, so it's only the third year.
Really?
Yeah.
With the massive population of burners that we have in LA County.
Yeah. Well, for I'm not quite sure how. My first Burning Man was 2011, and I went to DCOM in 2010, but I haven't been part of the community long enough to really, to really have a good answer as to why that was our first. But it's kind of a neat story, though. We built, or some of our buddies built a core project called Seraphim.
Yeah.
And that was burnt at Burning Man Core. I think that was 2012.
Yeah.
And then they built another one that was supposed to get burned at DCOM that year in the LA Historical Park, but we had such a drought that year that fire pulled the permission to burn it. So we had an extra effigy.
Yeah.
That needed to be burned. So what are we going to do, right? So Lala, the LA League of Arts, is our sort of local Burning Man organization, and they decided to throw one that year. So, so I mean, on one hand, it's good to be there on the ground floor, but only 3 years in. But at the same time, it's so much fun to go to Utopia and see something that's fleshed out in that way. We had just a blast at Utopia last year. I was just talking to our architect, Greg Fleischman, about going back this year and what else he wants to bring. So, Utopia certainly left a lasting impression on me and my crew for sure.
I think I met Greg at the burn.
Oh, did you?
He has a theme, like a continuous sort of like pyramid type theme, triangles.
Yeah, well, that's one of
designs.
his construction techniques is the sort of triangular space frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now he'll tell you it's based on cubic geometry, but it certainly looks like a pyramid. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just grabbing the memory that I had in my head, and that was actually one of my favorite stories from the playa, because when I met you very briefly at the end of Utopia, when you guys were sort of like breaking down, and you definitely seemed like you just had this like serotonin rush. You were like sort of like bouncing, and you were very emotional. You weren't ready to quite leave yet.
No, I wasn't. I mean,
and then just to finish real quick, I mean, that's when we pulled up, we were doing just going and doing some checks on camps and doing what they call rattling the cages. To just kind of make sure that everybody's like packing and leaving.
Oh, nice. Right.
So we came up and saw you, and I saw that Greg, that's when I recognized some of those designs because I'd met him very briefly on the playa. My friend Helen and I were just kind of exploring, and we ended up at his camp, and we were saying that it's the most elegant, beautiful camp that we'd seen.
Right. He has a style, like as a visual artist, I've always struggled to find sort of my voice, but when you see something of his, even if it's new, it's pretty clear who did it. You know, he definitely leaves this signature. It's got a feel, and it's definitely, I don't know. There's something super majestic about it. I'm a huge fan of his work too.
Yeah,
he's a 1 in a billion super genius.
How did you guys link up? How did you meet?
The collective that I work with is called the Desert Wizards of Mars. Now, one of the founders / leaders in the Desert Wizards of Mars is Charles White. He also built the Mars rover art car with the Desert Wizards of Mars help. So when Charlie was the first person I really approached with the idea about Black Rock Observatory, and then I also told him, pretty much right at the beginning, hey, we could try to do this, or why don't we see if Greg will do this?
Yeah.
And Charlie was like, hey, well, I know Greg. Let's have a meeting. And so DCOM happened soon after.
The LA DCOM.
Yeah, LA decompression happened soon thereafter, and that was 2012. 2012. Yeah. And he was there, and they built an installation right next to our installation, which was called The Human Spirit, which is a piece by Michael Lonnie. And sure enough, he was standing right there, and I'm a little bit socially awkward at times. And Charlie's like, you know what? Just go over there and talk to him. And I had seen Charlie talking to him earlier, and I thought, well, I should just run over there. And so I spoke to him briefly, and he's about a dome, and he kind of peeked for a second. He's like, you know what you should do? You should read. And I'm forgetting the reference right now who wrote it, but he's Keller. He's like, yeah, you need to read Keller's book on octahedral domes. And I'm like, oh, okay. I've already got some homework.
My first question is, what is an octahedral dome?
Right. It's an 8-sided. Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm at. And and we didn't even agree to work on it together. He just sounded interested in it. And then soon thereafter, we had the meeting at Charlie's house, and he seemed like he was on board.
Mm-hmm. You got to answer the door.
And then, probably just 6 weeks later, I got an email in my inbox with the first dome design.
Yeah.
Already done. How you doing, man? Hey, give me 1 second.
Sure. Hello. No worries.
How's the day going?
It's going excellent. How's yours?
Before.
Yeah. We were, I would say in general, I guess that's just part of the burner life is get used to the heat.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're up here in the desert. Oh, actually, every time we leave.
By the way, I'm sorry, listeners, if this is sounding confusing that we jumped subjects, it's because we had to pause for a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, continue though.
Oh, I was just going to say that every time we hit the playa, we actually lose about 10 degrees.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Because here in the Mojave Desert, it's 110, 114.
Are we in the Mojave Desert right now?
We are. We're on the very, very edge.
I don't even know where I am.
Yeah. So if you, it's actually one of the most conspicuous landforms on the continental U.S. If you look at a satellite image.
Yeah.
In the southwest, you see a very, very distinct triangle of sand.
Yeah.
That is bound by the San Gabriel Mountains on the south and the Tehachapi Mountains on the north. And that is sort of, you're right on the edge of that triangle. And it's like, next time you look at the southwest in a satellite view, you'll see it very plainly that there's sort of a wedge of Mojave Desert sort of intruding, like not quite to the coast.
Yeah.
But that's right where we are, right on the edge of the vast abyss.
How long have you been here? What brought you to Lancaster?
Well,
You said you're originally from Georgia.
Yeah, originally from Georgia. And I went to school, studied philosophy and art for a while. And probably 2 years in, I decided I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. So I stopped, worked odd jobs for 3 or 4 years, and then decided, okay, well, I definitely want to go back to school. And my dad was here in Leona Valley, just down the road. And he said, well, if you're going to go back to school, pay for school, don't worry about rent, just come live with me. Mm-hmm. So I've always kind of been semi-bi-coastal my whole life in Georgia and California. And so when I had the opportunity to come out here and live with my dad, I came out and checked it out, and I took one look at like Mount Wilson Observatory up here, and I realized, well, there's a rich science history here, and it's something I can draw on, and that was it. I moved here in '98, so I've been here.
So let's trace back though, so where that's coming from. So you're a photographer by trade. That's what pays the bills.
Well, yeah. Now, I have to give credit where credit is due. My wife's a banker.
Okay.
And so that
she pays more bills.
She pays way more bills than I do. So that frees me up to do more creative things a little bit. Now, I'm freelance, and when I actively seek a lot of work, I'm lucky enough to get it. But over the past year and a half, because of the observatory, and because of my child, actually, it's taken a little bit of a backseat. So,
yeah. So then you mentioned the observatory here. So where did that connection start? Where did that passion start?
Oh my goodness. Well, my parents instilled a love of space in me, so I've always had that. But I really got serious about observing probably when Hale-Bopp came around in 1997. I think it was 97. Or no, believe maybe it was 96.
Hale-Bopp is a comet.
Yeah. Thanks, folks, for making me right. Or wrong, whichever the case may be. But I there's something about technology overcoming the distance that's magical to me. And so, I mean, I've dreamt of running an observatory, for 30 years. Mm-hmm. It got serious in the late 90s, and then it disappeared because I don't have the skill set for that. I'm an artist. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not an astrophysicist. And then I went to Burning Man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then
turned out you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Turns out. I fell in with the greatest group of enablers in the universe. And
so what is because I don't know anything about observatories in general. I mean, I imagine there is some level of academia involved that decides who gets to have an observatory and
yeah. Now
it's funded.
Yeah, and part of the reason why I like doing what we do is because, I mean, sure, there's in the internet generation, the gates have come down, right? And so, sure, there are amateurs that have run observatories in the past. I'm not setting a precedent in that way, but normally, proper astronomers and proper physicists never step foot in an observatory anymore. They're usually down the hill in a climate-controlled environment, staring at a computer screen. Yeah. Astronomers don't look through telescopes anymore. It's amateur astronomers that do that. Mm-hmm. And so they tend to be the front lines of outreach in terms of astronomy. But yeah, normally, the people that get to do that kind of work have, very involved, very important experiments to be run on these telescopes. Because once these telescopes are built, they're worth billions of dollars. The time to use them is finite, and it's so basically there's a competition involved in order to get people time on these telescopes, and that goes for Hubble and all the great observatories you've ever heard of. But slowly but surely, some of these observatories around the country are getting phased out. Like there's so many new telescopes that are being built that these old observatories are being open to the public now. Yeah. And so sort of in that spirit,
kind of a dying art, if you will.
Yeah. But, and on the bottom end, the older observatories are now being opened up to the public, and, we're like basically what I wanted to do with our observatory is bring the observatory experience to, places where it's normally, not found. Because,
sure.
Most of these observatories are, in rural areas on top of mountains here and there. And so getting there is, another, a lot of people just don't find themselves in those places. And so,
you don't stop by like 7-Eleven and then make a right and you're
right. Not in most towns. Yeah. So we figure, if we can put it out in front of people, right up in their face, and they're going to, get excited about it and come get a chance to actually look through a telescope, which is,
well, I want to talk about that in just a second. So when was your first burn?
2011 was my first burn.
Okay. How did you end up out there? Did somebody drag you out? Had you been looking to go for a long time?
Yeah, I like a lot of folks, my story started way back. 98 was the first year I heard about it. And the moment I heard about it, I knew I was going to go. I was in Georgia then. But I came down, I came out here, and I knew I was.
How did you hear about it in Georgia? Is there a burner community there?
I'm not sure about then. The folks that I heard talking about it were all, relating what they had heard secondhand. Although there's a very, very healthy burner community there now, and they've got their own regional that is, I guess, in and out of proper status. Sometimes it's a legit regional burn, and sometimes it's not. But it's called Alchemy. Cool. But I heard about it just from my fellow group of freaks, and they're like, they're doing our thing. They're just kind of doing it out there in the desert together, and tens of thousands of people. I was like, oh well, that is for me. I'm going definitely. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
And then when I got out here, there was a guy that I got to know over the years, and he basically one night at a party, convinced me it was time to take the leap of faith. And that was 2010. So,
it took from 98 to 2010.
Yeah, it did. I can't believe it did, because I was thinking about it a lot, and so it did. It was a long road, but we were lucky enough to hit the ground running, kind of. We had some friends that were involved in a bar, like a DPW bar over on 830 and C called P Cubed Oasis, which is amazing. A bar, and so some of the people from P Cube took us under their wing, and we bought tickets to Burning Man, and then soon thereafter my wife got pregnant, so we weren't quite sure if we were going to make it or not. So we did a little bit of research, and got the doctor's okay and everything, and she went pregnant. So our 3-year-old girl has now been 4 times.
Does that count? I
don't know if it counts. It was all dubstep for her that year, just like muffled dubstep. But
she kind of came shuffling out of the womb.
yeah, and now the moment she sees the man or a picture or even just people dancing, she's like, "Oh, I want to go to Burning Man. I want to go to Burning Man." So
how old is she now?
She's 3. She'll be 4 in November.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, she's 3.5. She's crazy about it. Yeah.
So once you went, though, you were just completely sucked in. Like, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of knew that it was going to happen, just based on, what I'd read and what I'd seen and what I'd heard from my friends, that it was the kind of thing that I would take to. So the second year was almost a foregone conclusion before the first. But, and although although maybe somewhere out there there's a break in my future, it's not anytime soon. I don't think I need it.
Yeah. Yeah, so they say.
Yeah, I need to be there.
What? Okay, so you said what was the year that? What was the exact moment that you sort of had the idea that, oh wait, we could do an observatory out here?
It was probably my first night on playa.
Really?
Yeah,
it was immediately as soon as you got out there. You're
absolutely, because I get out. My favorite thing to do is ride around deep playa and look at art. And there was a moment where I was, at all vectors, there was something amazing to see. And so there was a horizon full of awesome.
Yeah.
And I look around at the dizzying landscape and I think to myself, well, there's only one way I know to make people say, wow, every time. And that's to show them Saturn, because people, when they look through the telescope at Saturn for the first time, they say the same things they say when they see Burning Man the first time. Holy, wow, this is unbelievable, and it's like it's not even real. Sometimes they say. So, all I did was I look around. And I said, "There's so much awesome here. Like, how am I supposed to contribute to this?" And then it just hit me. Oh, duh! I can show people the planets through a telescope like I have for years, and hopefully we can dress it up enough to where people will believe it's art. Yeah. So, it didn't take long. The very next year, 2012, I applied for an honorarium through the org. I said, I've got this idea. I want to build an observatory. And actually at the time, I don't know if you saw this, I think it was called Starlight. But in 2012, someone built these amazing plywood wooden stars, and they placed it out there in the shape of the constellation Orion.
Wow.
It was gorgeous.
Wow.
I couldn't believe the coincidence, because I wanted to put the observatory lined up. They were going to be small pyramids at the time, and they were going to be in the shape of Orion. And I was like, well, it's a good thing that this guy did this and did it right. And at the time, I didn't have the support structure to get it done. So it was, they turned me down, and they should have, because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And it was a last minute proposal too. Yeah. I basically heard the proposals are coming due. What are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I better do this real quick. So
do you know why they turned you down?
Well, in retrospect, my application was hobbled together, and it was obviously the product of one person's
Yeah.
crazy mind instead of a collective of people.
They've developed some sort of like a sense of just being able to read through applications and seeing if you can pull it off or not.
I think so. And well, I mean, we applied for honorarium last year and we didn't get it.
Interesting.
They don't get me wrong. They were a huge help. They were, anything we needed on playa, they were pretty much happy to help us with, but we didn't get honorarium. And part of the reason why they said we didn't is we asked for a little bit too much, but also we haven't proven ourselves as a group. We'd only built, I'll take that back because we had built some of our people had built the core project, but we had done the art car also. And yeah, I'm not quite sure, but a lot of people are telling me that they feel like the reason why we, and this might be news to you actually, but they've awarded us honorarium this year, which is fantastic. It's
awesome.
I'm beside myself.
How does that sort of untie your hands, like as far as the whole process goes?
Well, a lot actually, because a lot of the guesswork is gone. They've basically provided us with enough of a grant to get us back to playa just as we were last year. So the question of whether or not we're going is now off the table. You know what I mean? Like we are going. Yeah. And that means a lot. Yeah. And so,
here's money, here's space, you're good to go.
Right. And and a handful of tickets they'll give you. Yeah. And
because you can still go and kind of build art out there as long as it's kind of like not getting on. I don't know how this process works.
Yeah, well, there's a few ways. If you're lucky enough to get selected for honorarium, they will try to provide you with heavy equipment support. So if you have a large piece that's going to get a lot of wind load, then they will loan you ground anchors that you can chain down to, and they'll if you need a crane or a front end loader or something, they'll try to help you. They'll try to help you with those things, and they'll certainly work with placement, and they'll offer you tickets and a few things here and there. They were nice enough to hook us up some ice last year.
So I mean, like you can bring like smaller art if you're just somebody independent, but you can't like come in and build a structure.
Well, there's another level, which is just like if you don't get honorarium and you decide you're going to bring it anyway, as long as you're going to fund it, then they'll be happy to tell you, where to put the piece and also offer you some of that same heavy equipment support. Now that's sort of the legit route for people who don't get honorarium, but then there's also a lot of renegade art out there. I mean, there was a couple of DPW cats who ran out there like, Saturday night before gate and threw down some art and lit it up real quick, stopped back by the observatory, and they're like, "Oh, there's my renegade art out there. Go check it out." There was one called Dead Raver. It was way out in deep playa. Just a skeleton, with like the candy bracelet necklaces and obviously dehydrated and dead in the sand there. So that's okay too. Yeah. So they're happy to. What they would like you to do is stop by the artery and tell them what you're doing. Yeah. And that's the best bet because they're going to help you. But there's basically renegade people who just go out and do what they want, and you can get away with a lot, but then there's registered projects that get in the who, what, when, where, or the what, when, where, and on the website, and then there's the handful of hand selected honorarium projects that they have.
How many of them do you know, on average?
I think they said, just in the last 5 years, they usually pick between like 30 and 50, something like that. This year they said that they got 500 and I think maybe 500 and a half applications. Wow. And then they invited 200 something to go through the full application process. Yeah. And I believe it's under 60. I didn't do the count, but it's
significant that out of 65,000 people, there's 60 of those. Yeah. Yeah. We're certainly honored.
So
let's go back to the beginning of sort of how your team came together. Because we started to talk about this earlier when we first started. Yeah. You have the idea. Yeah. And you're thinking, what are you thinking your contribution to it is going to be?
Well, I was thinking I was going to design the thing, draw it in a program. Hopefully I was going to wrangle up a few good carpenters / engineers, and they were going to help me not kill people. Yeah. And then of course, that's certainly quite like what, one of the things we're answering in terms of collaborative art here, this whole giant experiment that we're in, is what the hell is a lead artist and what do they do?
Like a movie producer.
Yeah, well, I mean, see, now in this case, I had drawings that was of an observatory, but when Greg Fleischman said he wanted to come on board, I mean, those things got shoved underneath the table, you know what I mean? So in one way, I mean, in terms of the form, he's the top dog. He's the lead artist, But yeah, I mean, coming into it, I really thought it was going to be mostly design and then administrative. Now that luckily the design part got taken away, and a lot of it turned out to be administrative. But yeah, I mean, when I applied in 2012, I didn't have the people to pull it off, and so it was all kind of an undiscovered country for me. And then when I met the Desert Wizards of Mars, when they're building the Mars rover art car, and Charlie White and his merry band of crazy weirdos. I kind of knew I had the ammunition to get it done. You know what I mean? There was enough talent there, no matter what titles hit who, that we'd get it done. And sometimes at the end of a project, we're still like, wait, who did what and what is titled, whatever. But in the end, it's just, work that needs to be done. So, yeah, I mean, once I found them.
And how did you guys meet?
I was at LADCom 2011, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a picture of the Mars rover Curiosity on a table. And the Desert Wizards of Mars are loosely affiliated with Camp Envy, which is a group that they offer video footage of Burning Man to people who can't make it. Thus Camp Envy, right? For people who want to be on playa, right?
Okay.
So one of our art gurus, Reba Valentine, is a super talented PhD artist and educator, and basically she's manning this table with the Mars rover Curiosity on it, and like I stopped in my tracks. I'm like, wait a minute, Curiosity rover plus Burning Man, and so I turned around and they said, yeah, we're building Mars rover art car, and my mouth dropped to the floor. I'm like, someone is following me and deciding to do my, decide. I don't know. I was amazed at the perfectness of the perfection of the fit.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I told her, having never met her, I'm working on this project. I don't care what I'm doing. Just tell me what, And so I got a card, and then Charlie reached out to me, and I met his group, and slowly but surely the art card came together. So yeah, we all met in another dry lake up here in the desert, El Mirage dry lake bed. So I lucked out and crossed their paths at a DCOM event, and
so you guys connect, and then they brought in Greg, is that correct? Or they introduced you to Greg?
They definitely facilitated that. Charlie is sort of the leader of the Desert Wizards of Mars, and he had a previous relationship with Greg, and when he saw that I was a little reluctant to approach Greg, he's like, no, you need to just go and do it. And so I approached him, and then after that, he facilitated the meeting at his place down in Shadow Hills, and after that was it. Once Greg got on board and the whole thing changed direction, it was it was all downhill from there pretty much.
So what went into the process? Where did you guys start building? Were there weekly meetings? How did it come together? Well,
the beauty of Greg Fleischman's architecture is that it's a lot in terms of build schedule is we would have been swinging hammers in January if I had drawn the plans, but the way his architecture works is that most of the pieces are CNC routed. He'll draw it in Autodesk, and then a computer will cut the pieces.
Wow.
And then it might take some sanding, but once the pieces are sanded, they go together. You know, we can build the dome. We can build one of these domes in about 6 or 8 hours.
Wow.
And so our build schedule became so much easier the moment Greg, you know, we went from being months behind to way ahead of schedule because of the way his construction works, you know, because I mean, and a lot of people might know this already, but Greg's sort of, one of the things that Greg is known for is, you know, in 2013, the Temple of Holiness was built with no metal fasteners, no screws, no bolts, no brackets, that kind of thing. And
I heard about that.
Yeah, and so that also it makes assembly super easy and disassembly super easy. We'll take it down, and we took it down in an hour and a half, and we built it in less than 6 hours this last time. So it's like, yeah, I mean, once Greg jumped on board, it was really about working on Kickstarter and all that. And once we had the money, actually the first dome was cut, I believe, a month before we left for Playa.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like cutting it close.
Yeah.
And some of the pieces came up.
If you were ahead of schedule, why wait so long?
Well, because we wanted to wait to learn what we were going to learn for the second dome. So we built a prototype. We built that. Where'd
you guys put it together?
In his studio in Lincoln Heights.
Okay.
In East LA. So, yeah, that was we had also a scale model build, a 1:6 scale models, about 3 feet across. So that helped a lot. And that's, you know, built out of very tiny, thin pieces of wood. And then that gives us a sense of what we need to do when we build a prototype. And we all got together and built the prototype. And the first dome is actually far more difficult to build than the second because there's a lot of moving parts. The first dome has like louvers that open and close.
Okay.
And the second dome is sort of a more...
what is a louver?
A louver is like blinds.
Okay.
Sort of a large horizontal blind. So there's our dome is and for the math geeks, our dome is based on a shape and that's an Archimedean solid. It's called a small rhombocube octahedron, and it's got 18 squares and 8 triangles. And we cut off the bottom, so we cut off 4 squares and 4 triangles, but of our remaining squares, the squares that make up the roof have to be able to open and close to shut out the elements. And so there's sort of a blind situation there. And the moving parts make it a little bit harder. So the second dome is meant to rotate. So we only need to be able to see through a portion of the dome. And so we skinned the rest of it, got rid of the moving parts, except for we made the second dome itself the moving part.
Yeah.
So that one became a lot easier to build, and we learned a lot building the first dome that we incorporated into the design of the second. So the second one was sort of a last minute by design.
So why does it need 2 domes?
Well, we had a lot more than one telescope.
And by the way, where'd the telescopes come from?
Well, we built the large telescope. Now we have telescopes that belong to our crew that we brought with us, and some other donations that we brought with us. But our main telescope, which is giant, I mean, it's larger than like 99% of amateur telescopes in the country.
Yeah.
It was hand built by a local amateur astronomer.
That's
here.
amazing.
Yeah. And so he did like 95% of the work. I did like 5% of the work. And then the optics were figured by one of the best opticians in the world in the Midwest. So,
How did you connect with that optician, for example?
Well, here's another really awesome coincidence about the project is Charlie White, Desert Wizards, just by coincidence found a group in New York that decided they wanted to bring a giant telescope to Burning Man in 2014.
Okay.
And so they didn't know about us and we didn't know about them. And when we discovered each other, we're like, oh, great. Well, if you guys build the scope, we'll build the observatory and we can, division of labor.
Yeah.
Win-win. And, I think they had some organization issues or something. Some people thought they weren't going to make it. And so their telescope, they decided was going to be a 2 or 3 year project, but they already had the mirror. And so they had already contacted the optician and ordered the optic, because these optics take 6 months to make or something.
Yeah.
Like if we wanted to build another 20-inch telescope right now, we couldn't do it. You know, we'd have to wait for someone to manufacture another mirror. So they had already gotten that ball rolling. And so we used their optics, you know, and luckily they had made the right choice in terms of opticians.
Two things. One, by the way, that's what I fucking love about what keeps happening, what I see over and over in this community. I feel like, and it's not 100% of course either, there's always egos and stuff involved, but in most of the default world, you'll have like 5 different people that come up with their ideas, and then they'll just all want to do it themselves because they want the credit. Whereas in this community, you're like, you know what, why don't we join forces? Oh yeah, here, we already got this one. Let's make yours better. Yeah. Well, because then everybody wins.
Yeah, we'll collab. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, collaborative art. And that's, I mean, I'm with you. Why do it twice? I mean, certainly ego and glory and money and all those are not good reasons to do it. Like, it's
so funny. Like if you go through, like if you Google a nonprofit, like a specific thing you're looking for, there will be like 35 different nonprofits that do the exact same thing. Yeah. Like, couldn't you guys all join forces and make like 35 times the money and like eradicate homelessness like overnight?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. I mean, that's just one of the things that this community knows how to do that should be one of our primary exports to the world, Yeah, absolutely. But then I would ask though, so who have the like scientific knowledge that goes into building a telescope? Well, that's an interesting story, because the telescope itself was designed in 1635, I think, by Newton, right? Okay. The design really hasn't changed. The optical design really hasn't changed that much over the years. Amazing. Now, in the 70s, there's a Southern California astronomer named John Dobson who just decided to start building telescopes with cardboard and plywood as opposed to metal. And so what that allowed you to do was put all the money into the optics. Yeah. So we have a Newtonian telescope on a Dobsonian mount. What that allows us to do is use cheap materials I say cheap materials. We chose to use great materials for our wood, but the design of our mount is such that we can put most of the money into the optics. Like 80% of the money is the mirror that goes in it. Yeah. Oh, and this year's theme is Carnival of Mirrors, and I guarantee you we've got the most perfectly shaped mirror for thousands of miles anywhere around here. So after those guys, there's a couple of other guys who wrote a book called The Dobsonian Telescope, Krieg and Barry, and they sort of added to our design a little bit. And our local telescope builder, Don Bryden, sort of distilled all the best parts of those 4 designers' telescopes and put it into ours. So, and as much as I would like to pretend like a telescope is a very precise scientific instrument on one hand, but on the other hand, it's really just a tube with a couple of optics. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, Don is a genius, and so are Krieg and Barry and Newton, but and Dobson. But in reality, all you need is a few optics and the ability to line those optics. And so you just have to tilt and shift 2 different mirrors and properly place a focuser, and that's pretty much all you need to build a telescope these days. Yeah, I mean, you say telescope and people get automatically intimidated, right? But it sounds more complex than a car. Yeah. But like a skateboard is almost more complex than a Newtonian telescope. So we got that going for us. Yeah. No, it really does sound especially amazing when you say a Newtonian telescope. Like but you know what it is? It's a lot of the stuff that we've been raised with as proper members of society, that not everybody's allowed to do everything. Yeah. Like you put fancy names on things. I mean, I sound like such a hick right now. But put a little fancy name on things and all of a sudden they tell you you're not allowed to do these things. Yeah, right. But it's like, he's a doctor. You can't ever argue with a doctor.
because he's got that title. Well, no, I've met doctors that are dickheads.
Right, yeah,
They
yeah,
deserve
yeah.
to be argued
Yeah.
with.
No,
And same thing, like
I'm with
telescope. Like, you're right. People hear that. I heard my whole thought process was, how do you should build a telescope? Like, isn't that something that...
Yeah, no. I mean, what I meant to say was it was extremely difficult, and only the handful of us could have pulled it off. No, I mean, I think that also speaks to something that's happening, which is, and I mentioned this earlier, the boundaries, the barriers are going away completely, and people are starting to realize more often that when you decide to tackle a big problem, it's so much easier in retrospect than it was, when we were looking at all these variables and unknowns. Yeah. That sometimes, it's just the best policy to say, well, we're going to get this done no matter how hard it is, and we're,
Wait, do you watch Walking Dead?
A little bit, yeah.
There's a really great... I'm not going to give anything away, listeners. It's okay. But there's this really great line in a recent one where... I'm sorry, it wasn't a line. It was a review that I was reading about The Walking Dead. And it was saying that, a lot of society is a lie. It's just that everybody agrees to believe the lie. And I think what has happened perhaps over so many, millennia of civilization is that the majority of us maybe believe certain lies too much.
I agree.
And you buy into it with such intensity that people feel like they're not allowed to try things. You're not allowed to step out of things. I mean, a lot of times I hear about people committing suicide, for example, and yes, we're not going to get into the complexities of major depression and chemical imbalances and such, but a lot of times it's because it's really rejection is what causes them that. Like there's so much pressure from their family, and it's scarier to them to stand up to their family or walk away from their family and say, I'm not going to be what you want me to be, than to just kill themselves,
Right, it seems easier. Almost. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm with you, and I hope this isn't callous, but when I first started learning how to play guitar, I thought to myself, the moment I could put 3 chords together, I thought, wow, this has been a sham my entire life. You know what I mean? Like so many of the songs I've heard on the radio that these people have made millions of dollars, that I thought might have taken theory and all these things, know, it's really kind of a short line. Like Malcolm Gladwell says, 10,000 hours is what it takes to become an expert. In reality, that's not that long. You can become an expert if you really put in the, burn the midnight oil. You can become an expert in quite a few things in your lifetime. And especially now with the, with the greater free flow of information and exchange, it's like, I mean, the barriers aren't there. It's all unknowns, it's like you said, I have a buddy who just decided to be one of the Desert Wizards of Mars, just decided at almost 40 to become a neurosurgeon.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a million reasons why society would say don't do that. You know, but I mean, he knows.
What was he doing before?
He's a mechanic.
He was a mechanic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And around 40, he's like, I think I'm going to be a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, well, and he's got the smarts to do it. I mean,
fuck, I got to get him on the show.
Yeah, you should. He's a great guy. Russ Byerly, Commander Fancy Pants.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Very nice.
But I mean, can is where we're headed. The whole, can't because you're this is outdated. Yeah. I think. I mean,
which is funny because there's so many science fiction films and like books and stories and stuff that have been built around the idea of like you're born into this class system and you have to do this one thing. But it seems like society in the direction that we're moving in is the opposite.
Yeah, agreed. I mean,
where's my iPhone? I'm holding access to the entirety of human knowledge.
Yeah.
You just got to know what to look for.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's not out there for you to look up.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, I spoke to 1,500 high school kids a few weeks back about the observatory and about, like how to actualize your dreams. And it's like, I try to tell them,
I'm assuming this is at an assembly or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
You didn't start knocking on random doors?
No. When I got to 1,500, I was that. No, they invited me to come over and talk to them about really just crowdfunding and all that. And
how did they find out about your project?
I had some friends that I was up for an art job at this one high school. So I had some friends there. And It's funny because if I had gotten the job, the observatory might not have happened.
Yeah.
But
You'll either be our laborer or our celebrity.
Right.
It's one of the two.
But I, one of the big things I was trying to get across was your crazy ideas aren't so crazy anymore. I mean, not only do you have all the answers in your pocket, but through crowdfunding and everything, if the world believes in your idea, they'll give you the money to do it. I mean, you can't have an amazing idea anymore and tell yourself, well, that'll never happen because I don't have the network, or I don't have the money, or I don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
Because, a short few years and you should have all that.
Yeah.
It's I mean, surely that doesn't apply to every single person economically and all this. You need the internet and all this, but it's the days of dismissing your foolhardy, crazy, over the top ideas they should be long behind us. We're certainly forging into new territory where people, can't second guess themselves as much, because those ideas are the ideas that are going to propel us into the future. Somebody out there has a cure for cancer, and they didn't do it because insert, fill in the blank.
Yeah. Somebody didn't listen to them and said, well, you're a mechanic. What do you know about cancer?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Burner Podcast.
And time for our obligatory break, where we tell you all the latest and greatest, but most of the time we just repeat the same shit that we said on the last episode. Hey, art grant applications for Utopia are open now. Utopia, the San Diego regional burn that you hear so much about on this show, just because we happen to be based out of San Diego. Early grants are focused on large projects, so if you are planning on submitting to build the temple, or creating an art car, or a giant robot, now is the time to get that application in. Applications can be found at sdutopia.com/large/scale/and/temple/ God, this is stupid. Dude, just go to sdutopia.com and the link's gonna be there. I'm sure it will. But yeah, this year's theme is robots and dinosaurs unite. How fucking cool is that? The Circus Mafia Lafayette pool parties do continue through Saturday, July 11th. They are from noon to 5 p.m. Saturday, August 8th, 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Anyway, this is a 21 plus event. All kinds of cool things happening. It's a good party. There's a $15 cover charge. You get to hang out with some fun burners and go swimming. The Dr. Hayaz, there it is again. Dr. Hayazbalz. It's Hyasbalze. Gosh, producer Meg is really deeply involved with this project. I really should ask her how I say that. Boardwalk Soul Exchange fundraising extravaganza. That's happening on July 10th at Air Condition Lounge in San Diego. That's at 4673 30th Street in San Diego, California, 92116. Make sure you drop by. Air Conditioned is a really, really cool retro venue. You'll have a lot of fun, and give some money to a good cause, to this project that's going to be in the Midway on the playa. Go give your money. The San Diego Gay Pride Parade is July 18th in Hillcrest in San Diego. Oh gosh, you know what? That just tsunamis into the rest of the city. Even if you know what? Just follow the rainbows. You'll find it. You'll find Hillcrest easily. That's a July 18th San Diego Gay Pride Parade. I'm looking forward to the festival where Pierce Fulton will be spinning. And finally, I'll get to catch Emma Hewitt live, because I'm a big trans head, and I will marry Emma Hewitt. Movies in the Park, The Mask. That's also on July 18th. So if you don't feel like going to Pride for some reason, you can go watch The Mask, a movie from the 90s. That's weird. But that's at Ward Canyon Neighborhood Park in San Diego, California. There's also The Princess Bride happening on August 15th, also at Ward Canyon Neighborhood Park. Go to sandiego.org for more information on that. And look up your local regional Burning Man project on Facebook and volunteer. Facebook.com/Burning Man Midway. Now back to the show with Tom.
Welcome home.
I remember having this experience when I was younger, and I only know that I'm not the only one that did this, because I met other people that did this as well, where we figured something out, right? Who knows what it is? Some intellectual puzzle that we figured out, but we're just like this 14-year-old. So we go and make up the lie that we read it somewhere rather than and I've caught other people doing that from time to time.
That's interesting.
And it's really sad. It's because society has like created this thing like, oh, you don't have the title, so you're not allowed to be the person who has come up with the solution. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I read this, that makes it more believable.
I have a friend who would say whenever he would talk about some of these ideas that he had about where society is moving and stuff, he's a brilliant individual. But like he would say, like he had a friend who, worked for a think tank, for example, like things like that. So, and I only caught it in my head, and he said, because that's what he heard from this person. And so I only caught that because I was like, oh, I've done the same thing.
Got it.
And I realized now that that's just the incorrect way of thinking. And that's what's been beautiful about this community is that everybody says like, oh, I don't even know what a lot of my friends do. I don't know what their day jobs are.
See, that's awesome because I don't know, if somebody comes up to you, you should judge, with an idea, you should judge it based on the merit of the idea, not on the person at all. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's like one of the logical fallacies to dismiss it based on the person rather.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the great thing about everybody out there, looking like such freaks is because like you've got like physicist and doctor and all these people right next to each other and they all look exactly the same. Mechanic, whatever. Well, because they are all exactly the same.
Yes. It just happens to be because and this is, I guess, like one of the other huge mistakes that most people in society make is that they think that you only become successful at something because you're good at it. And that's not necessarily 100% true because the best actor is like one time they asked Johnny Depp, how does it feel to be like the best actor of your generation or whatever? And he said, I'm not the best actor. The best actor hasn't been discovered. He's like probably some guy living out in, I'm adding to this, like some guy living in South Dakota who doesn't have access to Hollywood.
Right.
Or like the greatest musicians are not the ones that necessarily like get discovered and get on that international stage.
We know that's true.
Yeah. There's a marketing machine. There's being at the right place at the right time. I mean, just even look at our situation here. We're in Southern California and I was able to drive over to come meet with you. And right before this, I was in Hollywood doing another project that I work on.
Right.
But the majority of the world doesn't have access to that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And it's and that is a really, really beautiful thing about this community is that we are sort of coming together and saying, hey, let's do that. I don't care.
I really count my lucky stars I'm on the West Coast because it's so much easier to get to Burning Man.
Yeah.
Like the people that come from all over the world, my hats off go to them. My hat goes off to them for making that extra effort because it's really easy for us to get there.
Yeah. Comparatively.
Yeah.
And it's still like, it's still an adventure.
Serious endeavor.
Nobody ever tells me a story about the time they hopped in their car and just very easily and smoothly drove over and everything was fine.
Yeah, you're right.
There's always something. It's almost like the playa, the atmosphere of the playa is trying to kick you out before you even make it there.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, it abhors people, that place, but somehow we make it look so good out there, don't we? We make it blossom. It
is amazing. What did you hear about that guy in Portland who had like the Kickstarter to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
I heard about potato salad.
Potato salad, that's what it was.
Yeah, potato salad was going on during our Kickstarter.
Oh my God.
And
that guy raised like tens of thousands of dollars or something.
Yeah, I tried
to make potato salad.
Yeah. I talked to the students about this. I told them, I said, right after I said, hey, your ideas are, you have to believe in them. I said, this guy, he was up to 70,000 at one point. Huh. Now, some people freaked out, and I think it ended up somewhere near 50. And we tried to leverage it. We're like, hey, this guy made $50,000 for a potato salad. Come on, science people. Throw in another $5. We're at 20,000.
He's doing something good with it, though. I understand he used it to make a festival and he's like putting money into charity and
he did make he had a bit. Yeah. I think he knew, that,
he had t-shirts that said peace, love, and potato salad.
Oh, I didn't miss that. That's cool. That's cool.
He created a whole brand around it.
Well, that's smart. I mean, the guy's brilliant just for having the timing to like look at Kickstarter and realize the absurdity. Because I love Kickstarter. It made my dreams come true. Yeah. But some of the stuff is absurd, and especially when you talk about GoFundMe and Indiegogo, when you hear, the first crazy story I heard about crowdfunding was breast implants, right? Like somebody got their breast implants done, but
But now there's a whole website dedicated to that, like a social networking site where like women that want surgeries, I'm saying women, anybody, I guess that I think it's probably more women centric. I don't know. I haven't been on the site, but basically, you set up an account on there and then like people will talk to you, your fans, and they'll just converse with you and they'll donate money to you so that you can get like a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey man, crowdfunding, changing the world, man.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that derailed me a little bit. What were we?
The boobs thing? No, we were just talking about crowdfunding.
Potato salad. Yeah, the potato salad thing, man. He I think it was 47,000.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the guy had his finger right on the pulse of the internet and all that, right at the right time.
Oh man, you know what it is? It's what is it? They say fature. What's the old saying? Luck favors the bold, or
fortune favors.
Fortune favors. Yeah. So, and that's something that I've discovered a lot as well on this journey, and I think that this is what this individual discovered, is that it's not just about who you know. A lot of bitter people will say that. They're like, "Oh, it's not what you know; it's who you know." Maybe that's like half correct. You do have to know some people. But when they open a door for you, you better be ready to walk through it.
I'm with you there, yeah.
And, and like this potato salad guy, like he happened to be a person who was savvy enough to use this thing and leverage it. Yeah. I think he originally started it as to be a goof. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Purposely.
He did. But I mean, he managed it well as it got bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. And it kept going. You know, with the observatory, by the way, so when I came in, you had been playing Grand Theft Auto.
It's true.
5 all day. And I said I wanted to talk about that.
It's true.
I think it's really interesting because with the observatory, you're creating a space for people to explore outer space, which is something that as human beings we've been fascinated by since, who knows how long. And I mean, since the dawn of, it's long before civilization, there's always been the kinds of people that are like, okay, let's stay here and build this village. And then you have the other guy that's like, I wonder what's over that hill.
Right.
I want to go see what's over there. And we've done that for ages, and arguably we've dominated nature to some extent because we've built on it and sodomized the planet.
Yeah.
And then here's this thing. And it's kind of fascinating that you're creating this environment where I think in burner culture, and even, not necessarily at Burning Man itself, but just the thing that attracts us together is that a lot of us are exploring inner space. I think that that's what psychedelics are. I think that a lot of the spiritual quests that people go on.
Yeah.
So I don't know, is that part of do you think about that kind of stuff as you're...
Well, I do. I think a lot of it about it, especially because of astrology.
I'm sorry, Grand Theft Auto. The reason I thought about that.
Yeah, sure.
Because the video game, that is kind of a psychedelic trip. Right there.
It is.
Plugging yourself into this thing. It's
an alternate state of consciousness for sure. Yeah. I mean, and I mean,
this entire world exists for you to navigate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kill hookers. But I mean, but if that's that's what you feel like doing on that trip, as long as you're not doing it in real life,
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Hilarious.
I mean, it's certain. That you're right. It does really speak to Burning Man because you can take on personas and people don't question it, and you can. Experiment with being and people don't question it. I mean, the introspective journey, I mean, you could really say that that's what set me out on this thing. If you dive into the self and roll around in there long enough, then all these issues seem, some, like we said, in terms of suicide, some seem insurmountable. You know what I mean? You seem like you're wrestling with these giant demons.
Yeah. And
the perspective that you get when you realize that you're staring across 500 billion miles or whatever, or, you're looking at a galaxy that, contains 1 trillion stars. I mean, it definitely helps keep it all into perspective, and diminish the self. But in terms of like other people's reflective experience at the observatory, I had to think about that a lot because, a lot of the Desert Wizards of Mars are real rocket scientists. We've got people that worked on the real Mars rover Curiosity and people that are building spacecraft this very moment,
Yeah.
So a lot of us have a firm grip on what we believe is,
reality,
or I mean, though we feel like life from day to day is affected by the stars, it's certainly not affected by your horoscope to most of us.
Yeah.
But we knew that we would, Burning Man is a very, very spiritual community. So we knew that we were going to entertain people that were headlong into astrology and the personal journey in general. And so, part of what I told the group was we have to, I think if it left to everyone's devices, a lot of us would sort of try to convince people that astrology was bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some of it is bullshit. I mean, the sun moves through a constellation called Ophiuchus, which means that there's a whole group of people that should be called Ophiuchans that are not. Huh. So some of it is bullshit. But I mean, there's also, but it does serve a very important spiritual purpose in certain people's lives, and we didn't want to. I didn't want to interfere with that at all. There's, we have a 8-pound chunk of meteorite. And I mean, I could go on for days about, we have a meteorite that's 1 billion years older than the moon. Huh. It's amazing to hold it, but every time I hold it, I don't get tinglies. Some people touch it and they immediately say, well, this has power.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Yeah. In the way that I guess crystals might have power to certain people.
Have you tried doing like a blind test?
No.
Just handing a rock to somebody like, hey, what do you think about this rock?
No, but I think we should. I think we really should. So in that way, I don't want to ever diminish someone's experience if they're but I mean, I feel cold rock, I feel cold nickel iron when I pick it up. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, sure, it's showing you Saturn and that it is out there is one part of it, but I'm hoping that you'll leave the observatory thinking about your place in the universe, your effect on the universe, because believe it or not, we have one.
On the universe.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, the Earth is part of the universe. And it's in spite of what some scientists say, and that, there could be billions of civilizations as advanced as we are. I mean, we're a very special part of the universe because we're conscious. I mean, we're the universe being capable of understanding itself. And that's an important thing, like whether or not, we're, abundance doesn't take away from that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I'm hoping that people leave with a very profound feeling of connection with the universe and interconnectedness.
See that, I guess that's the thing, because when I bring my awareness to like Saturn, for example, and the fact that we are this rock on this like cluster of rocks and there's this expanding universe, my whole thought is, we're just algae. Like we're not, how are we affecting the rest of the universe?
Well, we are a film.
Yeah.
For sure. We are a film on the very tiny outer edge of the rock. And in that way, the same, I agree with you. There was one point in my life where I was pretty serious about, or a lot more serious about environmental issues. One of the things that was constantly in my head at that time, sort of just as a counterpoint, was, we could all, we could burn everything. Yeah. And the Earth will be fine in 10,000 years. You know what I mean? Now a nuclear winter might be different. We could actually do maybe some irreparable harm, but we're not going to harm the solar system ever. You know what I mean? Like, we could work real hard for the next 1,000,000 years and we could hardly dismantle a minor planet, let alone a moon, or, you know what I mean? Like, that isn't to say we can't, screw this planet up. Sodomize it, frack it. Yeah.
I feel like, I am not by any stretch of the imagination an expert in this field, but I feel like the damage that we're doing, it's almost like this planet is just going to basically eat us And then give it another, 10,000 years or whatever. And once we're gone,
Try something else.
yeah, they'll just start it all over again. We've probably done this a few times already.
No, I'm with you. Yeah. I'm with you there. But we've got 4 spacecraft that are outside of the solar system now.
Yeah.
So that means they're going to be traveling through interstellar space forever. I mean, we put a...
that could crash somewhere, potentially.
Absolutely.
We probably already have, there's probably already some other planet out there. Like, God, would you guys stop throwing out your trash?
Right.
Fuckers over there on Earth.
It'll take a long time for them to get out there. But, I mean, we've put it out there. So we do have an effect, albeit a little tiny physical one, in comparison to the Great Abyss. It's there, and it's only growing.
Yeah.
And actually, those spacecraft in the beyond Pluto bear on our next project. We're building a piece called Interstellar Emissary this year, which is I don't know if you ever heard about the Voyager Golden Record. We talk about what effect we might have on the solar system. Well, in the 70s, we launched 2 robots called Voyager to fly by the planets, but to keep going. And we knew that they were going to leave the solar system, and we're like, well, we better take advantage of this. And so Carl Sagan's wife, Andrienne, she put together a record made out of gold. Okay. And on that record, on one hand, there's a track, like a regular album, and it's got the sounds of hello and goodbye and some rudimentary phrases from all the different languages in the world, plus symphonies and orchestra playing, plus the sounds of birds chirping and all this, lots of environmental sounds. And on the other side, they've got directions in scientific language, math and so forth, to instruct on how to build a record player, our position in space, and a few other things. But it's basically meant to be sort of like a calling card. It's meant to be a hello.
Why out of gold?
Because now, this is my understanding. Please don't hold me to this, but I think it was because of it wouldn't decay, or rust, or it was my understanding that it would be the most robust for its use. I'm sure it's out. I'm sure the better answers out there. Somewhere. Voyager record.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like gold teeth.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the Desert Wizards of Mars, who also works at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, wanted to bring a sort of an homage to that disc, to the playa. And so this year we're building a 5-foot edge-lit lucite replica of the disc, and we're going to hang it like 15 feet over the playa, and people can come and listen to the sounds of the record. And then there, hopefully, if we can pull this off, there'll be laser beams sort of pointing you from there out to the observatory. So if you go our plan is to be right beyond the temple, for you to see this. There'll be a shelter with the disc hanging, and then the disc will send you out to.
Have you obtained? That sounds beautiful, by the way. Nice. Did you obtain the original recordings that's on the disc?
Well, they're out there. What's on the disc is widely known. Now the obtaining part is interesting, because we actually contacted Andrienne, Carl Sagan's wife.
Really?
Yeah, she was rooting for us last year. Pretty.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it meant a lot to have her support. But
how did you contact her?
There are a couple of our group who have met her in the past and also worked on Cosmos, and she wrote Cosmos. Yeah. So some LA connects right through Hollywood, and then some actually old school connects. We have a friend who went to high school with the narrator of Cosmos, and so we basically.
Is Andrienne a burner?
Almost. We almost brought her out last year. Didn't work out. His son is. I guess we scored him a ticket last year, and I guess last minute he didn't make it. But so she's not a burner yet, but we're working on her. Right. We're working on her real hard. Last year,
she hasn't been the playa yet.
No.
But she kind of runs with the weirdos.
Well, that'd be my guess. Yeah, it seems that way, and she's definitely. She was definitely interested. It seemed like it was just her schedule that kept her from being there. But we invited her to come speak at the observatory, and she was excited at the opportunity. Although, and almost went right along with it. We're going to give her a great experience out there. But like right at the last minute, they put Cosmos out on DVD and Blu-ray, and so it was just kind of like bad timing.
Oh, yeah.
But when you brought up the copyright, when we told her about the Voyager disc, that project's called Interstellar Emissary. When I told her about that, about IE, she said, "Well, you better be careful with the copyright issues, because the songs that they put on the Voyager disc that are now almost 10 billion miles away, they actually had to pay copyrights." Yeah, so she said, "Well, if you do fundraising with this, because we have a video," and we showed her the video, and some of the songs from the disc are on there. And so she said, "Well, be sure they don't come asking for copyright, because
what songs are on there?"
Okay, a lot of it are, all that I know that it is on there for sure is classical music, but there's a lot of stuff. Okay. Now the classical music itself isn't copyrighted, but the performances are.
Ah, okay. Because the music itself is public domain
after a certain number of years. Yeah. Okay. So all of Beethoven is free to the public except for, the New York Philharmonic's performance of it and, or whatever. So, but yeah, rest assured, JPL and NASA had to pay through the nose.
Wow.
Yeah, for the copyright to these songs that were going to be shipped off the planet to a place where there's no fucking money and there's no commerce whatsoever.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, the project is great, but make sure you don't get screwed." Like, and she didn't say it like that.
But, that is really incredible.
Yeah.
How much time do you spend thinking about life outside of our solar system?
Oh man, well,
like when you're looking out there, is that part of the thought?
It is, but not it. The objects are the most interesting to me. So far, like my thing is Mars, because we're going. If we live to be old men, we'll see men and women walk on Mars for sure.
Somebody, one of the people who've been selected is from San Diego, I believe.
Well, that whole
what is that
thing,
whole thing?
Mars One.
Yeah.
You can maybe you heard it here first, maybe you've seen it online, but it is bullshit.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and
I've only heard in passing.
If that happens, I will be pleasantly surprised.
What is the story? What is it?
The story is they're going to try to get the funding to send people out there, but not give them the return trip back.
Yeah.
Right. And, but it turns out that if you are chosen, then you're sort of expected to donate a certain amount of your speaking fees back to the project. You're supposed to recruit new people to the project. It's basically a pyramid scheme that goes all the way to Mars. So,
amazing.
As far as anyone can tell, based on what I've read and heard, is that there are no proper engineers.
Yeah.
It's all a campaign right now. It's vaporware.
Yeah.
It just doesn't exist yet. It probably won't.
Well, this is what I get for not looking into the thing that I ended up learning out about.
No, it's okay, because this is all just sort of. It came out.
It's getting like, the reason I even noticed it is because it is getting like press.
It is getting
international news.
Yeah, and it started probably 6 months ago, I think, but now it's gaining some steam, and luckily, there's a few people that are looking into it, and nobody's turned up anything legit yet. Yeah. So it's like, there's a doctor. I read an article the other day that said that there was a doctor that was supposed to be doing checkups, but they were all on Skype.
Oh.
So it's like, you can't take vitals over Skype.
Yeah. I have actually a doctor friend who does that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I don't think he can take vitals, but he'll do consultations.
No, that's great.
He can, if it's like basic things, like I have this thing. Okay. It looks like you might have strep throat. Here's
right. No, that's brilliant.
Yes,
that makes a ton of sense. Yeah. It's just, if you're trying to decide whether someone is contagious enough to kill the rest of the crew, you can't do that online.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Yeah, it's not looking good for the Mars One project right now. They can pull it out. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Why do we need to go to Mars?
Well, we need to go to Mars because it was a lot like Earth. There were oceans. There's still a lot of water there, but it's the best analog, geologically speaking, to Earth, and it's sort of further along in its geologic history than the Earth is, and so whether we like it or not, we're going to become more like Mars. We'll probably lose a portion of our atmosphere and a lot of the water to space, and so first of all, I'd really like to know why. That's why I think we need to go. Yeah. That's why a lot of geologists think we should go. But I mean, the most intriguing question is, to me, was there life there? I mean, there's still a team of NASA scientists that studied a meteorite in the 90s called ALH 84001 or something. And this is a team of NASA scientists.
The one that the bacteria on it?
They were convinced that they were microfossils, yeah. So we know the conditions were good. We know that life was possible. All the chemistry's there. So that's certainly an important question. Now, if we go and we find out that there's no life, period, then I think we need to go just because we have absolutely zero frame of reference for the stability of the Earth's atmosphere. You know what I mean? And their atmosphere is obviously degraded. It's like less than 1,000th of the percent of the atmosphere that we have here, even though the gravity would support a bigger atmosphere. So we basically know that Mars lost its atmosphere, and if that's happening in our solar system, we got to figure out why, or we're in big fucking trouble. So just in terms of long-term climate, we need to know. I think the one thing that doesn't get talked about enough that I think there's a guy named Robert Zubrin. He wrote a book called The Case for Mars. He figured out how we could make fuel out of the Martian atmosphere, and instead of taking all the fuel there, we could send. We could send a factory over there in a spaceship, have it make the fuel to come back. But his argument for the reason why we should go is the frontier. We figured out how to keep time because ships crossing the Atlantic needed to figure out their position. And we could always figure out latitude based on where the stars are. We could never figure out time based on where the sun and the moon were until we invented watches. And so the amount of technical ability, technological and engineering and seafaring ability that came out of, or navigation ability that came out of the explosion of colonization, through all these ships and the Spanish Armada and the British Empire and all this, our understanding of the physical world basically went through the roof because we were bouncing ourselves off of the wild frontier, the frontier that was constantly trying to kill us. Well, now we don't have that. I mean, don't get me wrong, we haven't yet explored the ocean, but I mean, we need that challenge.
No, that's definitely one of the life lessons that I've obtained. That just even talking to people, when I was younger, I dealt with like a lot of depression and anxiety, and one of the things that I talk to other people about who are also struggling with mental health issues is you need to set some sort of a North Star in your life, set some sort of a goal, and you start working towards it. And that little by little, whether you like it or not, you're going to start solving different things that are happening around you. And that seems like that's just a running theme throughout life as a whole is you set a vision. I'm going to go in that direction. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but that's where I'm walking. And then things will start developing. Answers to questions that you didn't even know you had.
Right, yeah, new questions.
Yeah.
I'm with you 100% on that.
Even like, this show, like I've been co-hosting another podcast for coming up on 5 years. That's where I was with the last one. And when I was doing it, I had lots of friends. What's that sound?
Oh, I have pigeons.
It's pigeons.
that
really
coup
weird.
up here on my chimney.
That was so funny. A lot of times people would ask me, like, why are you doing this? Why are you spending, all this money driving back and forth? What's the economics behind it? Are you going to make money off of it? People are obsessed with that idea. Are you going to make money off of it?
Right.
And
is it viable? Or
and I it's been an absolute blessing for me because I've seen it, and I know that it's probably similar to the journey that you've had. Is you go through it and you start figuring things out. You figure out who you are. You figure out things that you're good at. You get stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, over and over and over, you have to set some sort of a North Star. And it just can't be a project that's done tomorrow. I mean, like a long-term
No, I'm
goal.
with you. Yeah, I mean...
And it's the same thing. Like, this is the reason man, woman, humankind at some point was like, I wonder what's behind that hill.
Yeah, man. Oh, God. See, I'm glad you said that. Yeah, there's definitely a keep moving theme in human experience on the earth. I think
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of designed for it, because a lot of times people will say, like, why do we need to waste our money, leaving the planet? Like, why don't we just fix homelessness?
That I can appreciate that argument.
But I would say the argument for let's go to space is that. Again, there's probably there's answers that we don't know about. There might be answers to the homeless situation, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we just didn't know what question to ask. I mean, look at the internet. We have Google.
Yeah,
You just got to figure out how to ask the question, but the answer is out there somewhere.
Yeah, and you certainly can't sit around in camp asking, trying to figure out what the best question, or you're almost better off picking a point randomly and moving towards that point than you are sitting and engaging in conjecture about which is the correct vector to head into and all this because what do they say, perfection is the enemy of you can certainly paralyze yourself by trying to
progress.
Figure out
Perfection is the enemy of progress.
I think that's right.
Yeah,
but you can certainly paralyze yourself by trying to choose the right direction as opposed to just walking forward. So I mean. Yeah, the frontier, man. Again, that's what Burning Man does for a lot of us, right?
Absolutely.
Find ourselves in an inhospitable place, and solving those problems kind of gets us back to where we all need to be.
It's especially. I mean, especially having this conversation like this is a reminder of how incredibly blessed we are to have access to this thing.
Oh yeah, man, we're fist bumping.
Yeah,
right now.
we are. It's really incredible. So you brought the observatory to Utopia, San Diego. Yeah, the whole thing, or was it like a smaller section of it?
The full on installation at Black Rock City was this year. It was 2 of the wooden 20-foot domes by Greg Fleischman, and then we also had 2 structures by Tin Man BRC. Mm-hmm. He's sort of known for his spider walker. He's got this. I'll show you a picture of it later. Okay. He's basically got these tin structures that have the same geometry as ours. They're basically, I say tin. They're steel geodesic domes that are modular, and he puts those together. So that's basically 5 structures plus the Mars rover art card. Now that's what we take to Burning Man. Yeah. And this year we want to take the Interstellar Emissary also. Now, for regionals, we typically just take the 1 dome, so we've got a little bit of time to, be at the regional. Yeah. But yeah, so far we've taken 1 dome to, actually the week after we got home from the playa, we took it to Kickstarter Film Festival in Los Angeles, and then the next stop was Utopia, and then
did you take it to Bequinox?
We took it to Bequinox, and then we also took it 2 weeks before Bequinox. We took it to Joshua Tree National Park to show John Adams Middle School kids the moon. So we went to their sort of science. There's a science magnet school in Santa Monica, and they have a camp out at Joshua Tree National Park every year. And so,
how long does it take to set up?
Well, on a good day with a proper crew, it's about 6 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, for Dome 2, which is the easy one.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's about 2 hours to take down.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the way things go together, like I said, Greg's genius has saved us countless hours of build time. they all basically slide together, slotted plywood construction. So it's really just a matter of getting there, unloading, and in 6 hours, we can stop for lunch and still get it done in 6 hours. It's kind of nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I was saying earlier that I met Greg on the playa at his camp. And it's funny because this was actually a story that I've told maybe a couple of times now on this show. Because on one of his pieces that was out there, because they had like their camp, and then when you start walking out into the playa, there was these structures that he had designed, and then there's like the large pyramid type structure further out. Yeah. And there was we get out there, and as with many of these stories, there was a dust storm. Yeah. And I'm on LSD, and there's someone doing a wine tasting.
Oh, nice.
Inside the pyramid.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It was really, really beautiful. And I've told the story a bunch of times just because like it was a really fun experience. You guys can go back to the last one to hear it, but but that's
Otic Oasis was what he built in walk-in camping this past year.
Yeah,
like a little mini temple, 2013.
Yeah,
it's good. Everything that he does is amazing. You might even be able to see this bench over there.
Yeah, I recognize it. I think it was at his camp.
Right. Yeah. So we stole a couple of those from him.
I may have sat on that bench.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, the way he camps, I mean, he's kind of got it figured out better than anyone I've ever met.
How long has he been going?
I think he said it's either 2007 or 2009 was his first, one of those two. And he didn't bring art right away. He went and really enjoyed it, and I think well, I mean, I say he didn't bring art, but when he camps, it's art. So
his camp is gorgeous.
It was probably just his amazing camp and no on playa art piece. But then he's got a team in the connection crew. One of the Burning Man special counsel is part of his team. Lightning Clearwater III is his name, and then Sin, his partner, sort of facilitate for Greg when he does the big on playa project. So they helped him build the Otic Oasis in 2010 and 11, and then in 2012 they did the Pistol, which was the structure inside the man base that looked like a beehive that you could climb all the way top. And then the following year they did the Temple.
Very cool.
Yeah.
When they kind of facilitated this meeting, was there something specifically about Greg's style that they were thinking would be good for the project?
I think they just got inspired to build the project when they saw his work, because Greg has been a Culver City local for like 50 years, and they were walking around Culver City and saw his studio, and they saw like models that he had, models of cluster structures that he had built in the past, and they said, "Oh my gosh, you need to go to Burning Man." He says, "Well, I've been." He's like, "Well, you need to bring art at Burning Man." Or so. I mean, once they saw what he could do, they just wanted to be able to leverage his talents and abilities for their projects. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, same thing that happened with me basically. I mean, he's got a million awesome designs that could be applied in a billion different ways, and so people come out with these ideas, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, well, just so happens I've already got the perfect thing for that." Like sitting in my mind.
Yeah. Where are you taking it next, do you know? Other than the playa?
Our next stop is Lucidity. And so that's...
so you're kind of doing like a tour of the regions.
2 weeks. Trying to get to as many as possible. Because, I mean, if we're like any other project, then we're going to have a shelf life.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to get to more places next year. We're going to get to the most places this year, probably. So I tried to hit everything I could this year.
With shelf life, how?
Well, projects, maybe there are permanent art projects that have come out of the playa. And I certainly wouldn't mind taking this observatory around for the rest of my life. But typically there's arcs, people, when I think of examples of projects that have returned over and over more than just a couple years, I think of the movie theater, the Bijou. And I don't know if they're done or not. They weren't there last year. I'd love to see them come back. And in that way... People's lives change, things move on. Yeah. I mean, in one way, if they want to keep inviting us back and we can find the money, then we're happy to bring the observatory back to Burning Man, indefinitely. But if I look at it critically, I think to myself, well, if we are going to taper off, then we might as well do as much as we can this year. So yeah, we're gonna try to do also the Robot Heart Further Future thing in the desert and outside of Vegas in June, I think it is.
The Robot Heart.
Yeah, the Robot Heart has strung a festival called Further Future.
Yeah, that's right. I heard about.
We're talking to them about trying to make it to that, and then I'll be taking the telescope to Ignite, but no dome, and then actually, I mean, I'm going to speak in Portland next month, but I'm just going to take a model with me.
What is the telescope going to show without the dome?
Actually, the dome, in terms of now, it's some more savvy telescope folks come into the observatory and they're like, "Do you really need this dome?"
Yeah,
and the answer is no. I mean, if on any given new moon evening, I could go to Fraser Park up off the 5 here, and there'd be 40 guys on top of a mountain. Pointing telescopes just like ours. Yeah. Maybe not quite as large, some of them, but it's like the dome. I mean, the telescope will reveal everything outside of the dome that it will inside. Yeah. But Greg's art will attract far more people than a bunch of 40-year-old dudes with telescopes. So, yeah. So people come for the holy shit. What is this? Yeah. And they stay for the. Stay for the astronomy.
Yeah, so. You suck them in with the aesthetics first.
Yeah. Well, some people, when we're going during the day at Burning Man, people would come and if it wasn't time to set up, or I was out there a couple of times and I was just cleaning up and not really operating the observatory at all, and people would come by and they'd leave and they'd say, "Oh my God, that was awesome." Yeah, and they'd never look through a telescope. Yeah. So I mean. Yeah, I mean, in one way, I'd love to take the dome everywhere, but sometimes if it's a, we can still share the stars and the planets with people if we can't afford to get the dome to a festival. So, and if the domes should ever stop traveling, the scope will still have a little bit of a life after that too, I think.
That's incredible. Well, hey, if they want more information on it, is there like a Facebook page? How can they reach out to you guys?
Yeah, so you can reach us at blackrockobservatory.com. Mm-hmm. The group is desertwizards.com. And you can basically follow anything that we're doing there. But there is a Facebook group and a Facebook page. So if you put Black Rock Observatory into Google, a lot will come up. Now, there's a castle called Black Rock Castle in Ireland, and they have a telescope, so that'll come up too. Wow. Yeah. That'll come up too a little bit, but
there's a Burner Records in Australia, and they have Burner podcast.
Oh, do they?
Twitter handle. Yeah, fuckers. So ours is a Burner _ podcast.
Oh, got it.
But yeah, no, I feel your pain.
yeah. So yeah, blackrockobservatory.com is probably the place to go. Or you can find us on Facebook too.
It's awesome. Tom, thank you so much. It's been really fucking great.
It's been awesome, dude. Thanks.
Very cool.
Thank you.
All right, Tom. Okay, I looked it up. What's happening? Tom is actually now, after this interview, I mean, this is like recent update. He's going to be operating the telescope at the Griffith Observatory. So his dreams have come true since the recording of this podcast. That big thing has happened. And the other thing that's happened is that Tom is raising money to continue expanding this beautiful, wonderful, amazing thing that he and his crew have put together. So make sure you go to blackrockobservatory.com for information on that and find out how you can donate and support their work. It's very important, beautiful stuff, and make sure you go do that. Important shit. Let's help good people succeed. You can tweet me directly at Mr. Arash, and when discussing the show, please do use the hashtag #BurnerPodcast. Shows are up on Libsyn first, and then on iTunes and Stitcher and TuneIn.com, and then SoundCloud, of course. Don't forget that. That's where you can download it. Leave some reviews on iTunes. That would be very cool of you. Or not. Be a dick. See if I care. Our intermission music is by Duckman. Check out his music at duckmansd.bandcamp.com. And if you're a musician in the community, do tweet our music editor, Navjeet. He can be reached at I am Navjeet. IAMNAVJEET. I'm sorry we all have weird names. You can find all this information at burnerpodcast.com. The Burner Podcast theme song is America's Horse With No Name remix, produced by Joe Man. Check out his stuff at soundcloud.com/DJ Joeman. This episode is produced by Meg King. If you have questions or suggestions for future guests, do shoot them over to Meg. She is on Twitter at @MegKing. Our online editor is Tanasi. Woohoo! He writes and curates the blog and can be reached on Twitter at @burner_podcast. The underscore is very important. Use the underscore. If you don't use the underscore, you'll be tweeting some Australian record label. Please don't do that. Or, as always, to contact any of the staff, you can use the contact form over at burnerpodcast.com. Hope you'll join us next time. We do release new episodes on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. So until next time, love and light and all of the crap. Good night.